I would now like to invite Mr. Manoj Gupta for the second presentation.
Thank you, Simon. That was absolutely great, looking into what the bunkering industry holds good for the years to come. It was a lovely presentation that we all thoroughly enjoyed. So once again, very, very good evening to all of you, the organizing committee, the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Manoj, representing Lanka IOC over here, and feel so humbled and privileged to have been given this opportunity to share with you about where do we stand as far as the developments at Trincomalee are concerned and how do we take it forward. So here we are. So for many of you who may not be knowing very much about Trincomalee, move on. Trincomalee is the second largest natural harbor in the world. The first one is there somewhere in Australia and all. And 56-kilometer shoreline, one of the most important harbors. And it is always said that for whatever reasons, like we have not been able to actually use the facilities at Trincomalee the way we should have done it. Long time back. So just to give you a feel, about what Trincomalee is, even I got an opportunity to click a video of Trincomalee, like while just flying out with my chairman 1 month back. I would just request to just run that video before we get down more into the details of the Trincomalee. So this is an aerial cap shot. This is a rig. This is SPM. There's a single buoy mooring out over there. This is Prima Ceylon. They have their own jetty out over there. If you can see that is Lanka IOC jetty, this one. That is Lanka IOC jetty. You can see the lower tank form. You can see this is not working. You can see the lower tank form out over there. We have 16 tanks. Each tank is of 10,000 tons capacity. We have 3 tanks exclusively being used for storing the VLSFO and another tank storing MGO. We move ahead, we can see the upper tank form. This extends into area of almost about 600 acres. These are the tanks that have been the talk of the country for decades together. So this is an aerial shot. These are riveted tanks. These are steel tanks since the British era days. And I'll just talk forward on how all what was required to be done to put these tanks into the most optimum usage, all those formalities, everything stands complete. And now we are completely geared up to start using them. So, once again, at Trincomalee, we have presently one oil jetty that we are presently using, made by SLPA, the Dolphin Oil Jetty that we call it, where the draft is 9.75 meters, and we have been bringing the oil vessels up to a capacity of 35,000 tons. The SPM that we saw, like out over here, there the draft is 22 meters. And what we plan is that once the necessary works, which we are going to talk shortly, are completed, we would be able to bring in vessels with DWT as 75,000 tons. That is our first milestone that we are looking at. Trincomalee tank form. I'm sure many of us knows that it comprises of 99 tanks. There are 14 tanks in the lower tank form, and the balance tanks, 99 minus 14, are all there in the upper tank form. 6th January 2022 was the most historic day for us when we entered into a lease agreement. I mean, what makes me say this was historic? Because this was pending for more than 2 decades, Lanka IOC has been in this God-blessed country, since 2002. But for whatever reasons, there were disputes, there were misunderstandings, the legal part of the various documentation was not complete, but it was on 6th of January that this agreement was signed between CPC, Lanka IOC, and the government of Sri Lanka, as per which the lower tank farm has now been completely leased to Lanka IOC for a period of 50 years, and a modalities agreement has been signed, a joint venture agreement has been signed. As per the joint venture agreement, a new company has been formed that we call as TPTL, Trinco Petroleum Terminal Private Limited, which would be having 61 tanks in the upper tank farm, right? Out of these 61 tanks, which are spread over an area of 600 acres, now the board of TPTL has been very meticulously, very sincerely working for the last 8-9 months how to most expeditiously these tanks can be put into usage. Another point to be noted is that 24 tanks out of the 85 tanks have been leased to CPC, and they also have started their portion of work with the objective that the supplies of white oils, gas oil and gasoline to the northern and eastern part of the country to the CPC sheds can be undertaken from Trincomalee from these 24 tanks. Now, what we look forward to is the development of the Trincomalee tank farm. And for this, the board of TPTL, which is headed by the ex-chairman of CPC, Mr. Sumit Vijayasinghe, myself as the managing director, we have 3 other senior officials of CPC on the board and 2 senior officials of Lanka IOC on the board of TPTL. And plus, we have almost about 20 to 22 employees from both the organizations, CPC as well as Lanka IOC, very diligently working on taking the proceedings forward. A series of activities have been undertaken right now in the last 7-8 months. What are those activities? First of all, the board decided that the development of 61 tanks be carried out in 2 phases. In the first phase, we would carry out the development of 10 tanks, and we would put 10 tanks into usage as earliest as possible. And subsequently, once this is done, then we would start working on the 61 tanks. Before we start any project, it is very essential that the detailed feasibility report is carried out, for which the work has already been awarded to PricewaterhouseCoopers India, and they are already working on it, because that would be one of the most vital documents as far as the further decision making, as far as the further financials, the funding of the project and other related activities are concerned. Around the 10 tanks, the clearance of all the vegetation, actually this was a complete dense forest, but with the continuous engagement and the rigorous work being done, all the area around the 10 tanks has been completely cleared of the shrubs and the vegetation growth, and the State Timber Corporation at Trincomalee is in the process of floating the tender for the clearance for the cutting of all the trees which surround these 10 tanks. The tender is, the trees have already been numbered, and the tender is just about to be floated. It would be floated by State Timber Corporation for the finalization of the party to whom this work would be accorded, and all the tree cutting in the area surrounding these 10 tanks be done. This is the onset of November. We are very optimistic. Hopefully, by January, this complete tree cutting would be concluded. The tender for health assessment of these 10 tanks has already been floated. All the formalities have been completed, and we have identified on the basis of obviously the technical bids and the price bids and all, the party, as if I could just say Inter-Ocean Services, the party that would be carrying out the health assessment of the tanks. The work order is to be placed on this company, Inter-Ocean Services, that would be carrying out the health assessment of the tanks, which is once again very, very vital before genuinely undertaking the M&R works, the refurbishment works on these particular tanks. Series of meetings have been organized with Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, headed by the concerning state ministers, also chaired by the current chairman of CPC, the ex-chairman of CPC, the board members, myself, wherein budgetary estimates have been done. In one of the slides, you would see, let's go to this particular slide. I mean, if you see that SPM, that photograph of single buoy mooring, in fact, what is important, significantly required to bring these 10 tanks into operation would first of all require laying of a pipeline from that SPBM, I mean this yellow, purple, orange demarcated pipeline which has been shown out over here. I mean, first of all, this is just an SPM. There aren't any underground pipelines right from this point to the shore. So the board has decided that we shall be going ahead with the flexible hoses. This is a distance of almost about 500 to 550 meters. From over there, the purple pipeline, which you see almost ending at that particular point where the pipelines from Lanka IOC jetty concludes, that is another distance of almost about 600 to 700 meters. And finally, we have a pipeline which runs up to the 10 tanks in the upper tank form, and this distance is almost close to roughly about 3 kilometers. So, primarily, we intend to lay two pipelines, one pipeline, the white pipeline, and the other one as the pipeline for the black oils. Out of these 10 tanks, which should be ready closely by July, August coming year, we intend to put minimum of 3 tanks on bunkering. Also, in Trincomalee, we have that large spread out area of 600 acres, which we just saw, wherein a 50 megawatt solar plant with an estimated value of about 25 million USD, is going to be put up. So, as far as the development plan is concerned, we are very much focused, we are very much optimistic. Coming 9 to 10 months, we should be in a position to actually have the UTF with 10 tanks into operation, right? And as far as the balance tanks are required, we have still 51 tanks, but then the board feels that that needs to be done in periodic basis, not that we straight away go in one shot of 51 tanks. There's a lot of land available. The feasibility also includes setting up, putting up installation of new tanks of 50,000 tons. There are multiple usages that are being contemplated, that this UTF can be put to use of. Strategic reserve also happens to be one of the important part of it. This we talked about. Excessive land areas are available. We can be putting up a lube blending plant, we can be putting up petrochemical warehouses, renewable energy. A lot has been spoken about the upcoming fuels like green hydrogen, ammonia. I also have a slide out over there. Bulk bitumen plant. There's a lot of potential for bitumen out in the country. We also have been importing it. Sapugaskanda refinery, one of the byproduct is bitumen, but all said and done, there is still a need for a bulk bitumen plant to be put up, which can always be done. One of the most significant uses of Trincomalee that we contemplate is once this storage facility is made available, these tanks can always be leased out to various suppliers across the world. Just like Singapore, we intend to genuinely make Trincomalee as the bunkering hub. The price fluctuations, I'm sure, all of us have been seeing around, right? So any number of these tanks can be used by the suppliers. They can take these tanks on lease from TPTL. We have already determined the storage charges and all. So all those equations, mathematics, everything is in place. Also, I mean, it can be used as a strategic reserve by Lanka IOC, by government of Sri Lanka, by CPC. I mean, we can be very much instrumental in exporting white oils, black oils, which we store into these tanks, which we otherwise procure when the pricing conditions are favorable, and we can always be exporting it to the nearby nations. Could be anywhere. Could be Myanmar, could be Maldives, could be the eastern coast of India. I mean, anywhere. I mean, there would be a lot of opportunity available for procurement at an economical price and supplying it, selling it at the price that we intend to command. Future fuels and all, I mean, going forward, Simon was talking about 2030 and all, just like solar, there's a lot of potential for solar energy, already as per our vistas of prosperity and splendor, 70% is the targeted percentage of renewable energy by 2030. There is a lot of potential for wind energy. 30 gigawatts is the wind potential. Even if we are able to exploit a portion of it in the next 5-6 years, trust me, there would be a lot of potential. There is a lot of potential available at Trincomalee for the purpose of electrolysis of water, making of hydrogen, converting it into green ammonia, storing it, exporting it, and commanding big price and big premiums out of it. However, that is still a bit far away. The immediate requirement or the immediate expectation out of Trincomalee would be to put these tanks into usage for storage of excessive quantities. Ensure that we seek advantage of the economies of scale. If we are able to bring in 70,000 tons of cargo, I'm very confident that the premiums that we presently pay to the suppliers would be very much more preferential, more economical to us, and definitely it would go in a long way. This was a very short, a very crisp presentation on the genuine reality on what the board is targeting and aiming to achieve in the short period of next 1 to 2 years. Right? Thank you so much.